Hello, Extra Hero here, and you're tuning in to my first video featuring my top 10 shiny Pokemon. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Near the latter part of the Gen 2 games, many of us encountered this Pokemon in an icy cave. I saw it and fell in love. It was a dark, mischievous, bipedal, cat-looking Pokemon with huge claws that were itching to slash everything in sight. It perfectly embodied the dark type that was recently introduced. Eventually, we discovered its shiny form, which was a huge departure from its dark color scheme, opting for pink and yellow instead of its original dark color palette. However, the cool thing about this Pokemon is that it was able to maintain its sinister look even while being pink as the day is long. Don't let the color fool you, Sneasel is still very much Sneasel. Number 9. This spot on my list goes to a Pokemon that I just think is incredibly cute, Shiny Noibat. I love the color combination. They did the one thing you can do to a shiny Pokemon that will always make me love it. They blacked it out. Number 8. Even before the second generation games were released, Generation 2 Pokemon began showing up in Pokemon media. One small blue Pokemon in particular caught the interest of Pokemon fans. It had a striking resemblance to Pikachu, and so fans thought it was a different version of Pikachu, perhaps a water Pikachu. Eventually, people started endearingly calling it Pikablue, perhaps thinking that Pikachu was like Eevee and in the future we'd have different elemental versions of Pikachu. And the first among these was the adorable water-type Pikablue. And it turns out we weren't that off the mark. In the generations that followed, all would include Pokemon with Pikachu-esque features that the community would call Pikachu clones. And Pikablue, who we later found out was called Meryl, turned out to be the one who started this tradition. Once fans got to actually play the Gen 2 games, we found out that Meryl had an evolution, the powerful Azumarill, and its shiny form infused it with Pikachu's signature colors. I like to think that it was sort of a wink to those of us who thought that Meryl was somehow related to Pikachu. Number 7. Gardevoir has a lot of fans for a lot of reasons. She also has a classy looking dress built into her design. Just all around cool. And again, what's one of the things you can do to a Pokemon to make it cooler in my book? Black it out. And Gardevoir does just that when Shiny Gardevoir Mega evolves into Mega Gardevoir. Looks good in white, looks good in black. Get you a Pokemon who can do both. Number 6. I don't think Zygarde in this form looks cool or anything, but its shiny form to me looks amazing with that awesome color scheme. You got the sparkling white and you got the sparkling turquoise. At the moment, it doesn't seem possible to get one of these, but in the future, with great persistence, I'm sure you'll be able to find one. Number 5. I don't understand why Umbreon isn't on everyone's top 10 shiny list. I mean, first of all, Umbreon is a very well designed Pokemon and it's the perfect mixture of dark and cute. Though its shiny variant isn't drastically different from its original, the change from gold to blue is pretty nice. And honestly, if the blue Umbreon was the original, the gold Umbreon would still make this list because they are both equally great. Number 4, it was likely the first shiny Pokemon caught by most trainers. Red Gyarados will always be one of my favorite shinies, and I don't think I'm alone. First, you start off with a Pokemon that lots of people like because not only is it powerful, but it's a rags to riches story. Or in other words, a started from the bottom now we here story, going from one of the least appealing Pokemon, Magikarp, to one of the most badass Pokemon, Gyarados. In my recent playthrough of Omega Ruby, I just used a team of Gyarados and it was great. I'm sure everyone remembers what it was like to meet Red Gyarados, whether it was in Gold, Silver, or Crystal. It was basically like meeting a legendary. Number 3, the legendary Kyogre is one of the most powerful water-type Pokemon to ever exist. In Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, it received a huge power boost in the form of Primal Kyogre. The shiny variant of its primal form is one of the most breathtakingly beautiful Pokemon I've ever seen. Not to mention shiny Primal Kyogre is blacked out, and you know I love that. Might have my favorite color scheme of any Pokemon, and the circuit board-like design does not hurt. Number 2, you gotta be something special to best Primal Kyogre, and this Pokemon did just that. One of the strongest Pokemon in the game, I bring you Rayquaza. Rayquaza is no stranger to people's top 10 list, and it's easy to see why. Its lore, its look, its power, and its shiny variant takes it to another level by, you guessed it, blacking it out. It also doesn't hurt that shiny Rayquaza had a role in Pokemon Conquest. My favorite type of Pokemon are dragon, and this was the dragon to rule them all. And in case that wasn't abundantly clear, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, they just said screw it. Have no mercy. Make him even more powerful and give him even more incredible backstory. And then the clouds parted and Mega Rayquaza appeared. Before I get to my number 1, I have a few honorable mentions. I gotta give a little love to Shiny Kabutops, which looks like a love child between two of the most badass Generation 1 Pokemon. Also Shiny Latias, which looks like the lost triplet and the one who completes the red, blue, and yellow triad. Also Shiny Haxorus and Shiny Melodic, who like Umbreon managed to look just as good as their originals. Which doesn't sound like much, but in a world where shiny Pokemon often look less appealing or virtually indistinguishable from their normal variants, I'd say it's quite an accomplishment. Number 1. It's been a while since the first generation games came out, and I still remember what it was like when Professor Oak offered us one of 3 Pokemon. It was a tough choice between Squirtle and Charmander, but eventually I settled on my first Pokemon, Charmander. It was a rough start taking on Brock and Misty with the fire type leading the pack. But eventually the hard work paid off, and the next thing you know I had a Charizard on my hands. What a game changer. Felt invincible until I got to the Elite Four. The second generation games came around and introduced shiny Pokemon. What do I always say you can do to a Pokemon to make it cooler in my book? That's right, black it out. In fact, when X and Y came around and you didn't have a shiny Charizard, guess what? Give your Charizard this Mega Stone and you too could have a black Charizard. The feeling I got when I saw Black Charizard and Black Rayquaza were similar to the feeling I got when I saw Dark War Greymon. Well, that's my top 10 shiny Pokemon. I hope one of yours made the list. If not, maybe it'll make the next one. You never know. Speaking of the next one, this was my first video, so if you like it, please hit the like and subscribe button because I can't read your mind. I've been Extra Hero. Thanks for watching.